To discuss, we're now joined by Mpumelelo Zikalala of Zikalala Attorneys. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Zikalala. We keep on saying or reporting this seems to be the end of the road for former President Jacob Zuma, and then more legal issues crop up. Could we be seeing the end of the road?
Depending on what the former president is going to instruct his legal representatives, you still have the Constitutional Court. You can still go to the Constitutional Court and say, my right to a fair trial, my right in terms of Section 35 of the Constitution may be infringed. Please come to my rescue. I want to deal with this issue of charge to prosecute. I want to expand the definition of charge to prosecute to the conduct of the prosecutor. I've tried the KZN division sitting in Pietermaritzburg. They haven't listened to me. I've also gone to the SCA. They've dismissed my application. You are my last resort. Please come to me. My rights may be infringed with this application. Give me an audience, please.
And given the history, there's a high likelihood that he will approach the Constitutional Court. It seems like he always goes as far as he can.
I would guess on that one, he's simply exercising his rights. If there is a right which is available to you with the legal prescripts that we have, that's exactly what he is going to do if that particular opportunity is there. I think it's one of the core functions of our law, the protection of our law that we fought for. So if there's an avenue that one can traverse and go to the Constitutional Court, I think definitely he will do it depending on the circumstances.
This was all around a special plea to have Billy Downer removed as prosecutor. Could he also put forward any further special pleas, anything like this?
I don't think there's another avenue when it comes to those special pleas. Let's remember that the Criminal Procedure Act is the one that guides us as to what exactly we should do in this type of circumstances. And I think this one was probably the last avenue that could have been there. The only thing that could happen now, once the trial has started, is that you can see many trials within trials when it comes to the admissibility of evidence, when it comes to the people that are supposed to come in and give evidence, and the credibility of those witnesses, which is what, in essence, the Supreme Court of Appeals was indirectly saying, because they were saying, in order for you to adequately defend yourself and deal with the prima facie evidence which is against you, go to the trial court, go and challenge every single piece of evidence that is going to be laid against you. It linked to that, the Criminal Procedure Act under Section 174 would cover you in instances where, if at the end of the state's case, there's no evidence which is enough to convict you. So if there are all these safeguards that have been inserted or are created by our laws, there is no need in order for us to dismiss or to grant you this particular application.
So, Billy Downer, if we return to the special plea under issue, you say it may still go to the Constitutional Court. He's been vindicated thus far, surely by the Supreme Court of Appeals. He's been at the forefront of Zuma's prosecution. How impactful would it have been, or will it be, if he is removed? Could that be devastating for the case?
No, not really. Let's remember that Advocate Billy Downer, yes, he may have the institutional knowledge of how to prosecute this type of matters. Let's also remember that he was the prosecutor in the Shabir Sheikh case. So when it comes to navigating the evidence that is there, navigating the records and the bank statements and whatever transactional webs that you would need to traverse in order to prove your case, he'll probably be the best person. But what was sought in this case was that he is not the lead prosecutor who is going to stand up and give evidence. In terms of access to his institutional knowledge, being present in court, providing and guiding the way in which this type of evidence is supposed to be displayed or submitted to the court, certainly is going to be there. So even if the former president would be successful in the Constitutional Court, we won't see the last of Advocate Billy Downer being in court, we won't see the last of Advocate Billy Downer presenting and actually prosecuting this particular case.
Yeah, so he could still be there. You mentioned Shabir Sheikh, which is interesting because he was jailed for this very issue. He was released for health reasons a very long time ago. It makes people question what happens if after all this time, when it comes to former President Jacob Zuma, his prosecutors fail when it actually gets to trial and the merits of the case. There must be huge pressure on the state. And then what if he is convicted and then released shortly afterwards because of health grounds? We've seen that. Is this exercise still worth it in the name of justice in South Africa?
I think from the side of the NPA, they are going to say if a law is being broken, no matter how minor or major the law is, that particular person must be able to face the full march of the law, and they must be punished adequately. There are ways and means in which the adequate punishment is then observed and assessed by our honorable courts. So if there's something or prima facie evidence that a person has to answer to, then there is. But let's also remember the three facades or the three sort of alternative charges that are there with this particular case. It's the main one of corruption. If that one fails as an alternative charge of failing to disclose certain benefits in Parliament, if that one fails, there's also the failure to disclose those particular benefits from SARS. So if you are able to prove that there's a transaction that took place between the former president and Mr. Shabir Sheikh, certainly 2 out of those 3, you are almost halfway there to proving your particular case. So I think this is what the state is resting on and saying, we have a strong positive case or a strong case in this matter, and we want to pursue it up until the end. When it comes to punishment, that is a measure in which we traverse when we get to it. However, on the merits of it, we are of the opinion that we are ready and we can be able to prove beyond reasonable doubt that indeed these particular transgressions took place. Let's also remember, when it comes to the element of corruption, it is a two-way stream. So there must be some type of benefit that has occurred between the person who's going to offer to relax either those particular rules that are there or to overlook the compliance with any regulation or law in which you're supposed to comply with. And I think that the state wouldn't invest in so much in this case if they knew that their case is weak. They wouldn't have made sure that they ensure that Africa Downer stays as the lead prosecutor in this case. They would have made sure that they go through this whole process of all these years, preparing the evidence, calling the state witnesses, prepping them, if they knew that their case was weak. However, when it comes to the sentencing part of it, there's a completely new ballgame altogether. Then it is the responsibility of the court to then say, let us look at the element of the crime that has been committed and its seriousness. Let us look at the personal circumstances of the accused in this case, where age would also come into question, their state of health would also come into question. And then we are going to dish out the appropriate punishment that a person with those particular circumstances is supposed to get. The most important part or any reasoning when it comes to the courts finding a person guilty and giving out the particular punishment is to send a message to us as society in terms of saying crime does not pay. If you are found to be guilty of a certain crime, you are going to be punished.
All right, let's leave it right there. Thank you very much. And of course, we'll follow proceedings on mid-April when he returns to court. That was Mpumelelo Zikalala of Zikalala Attorneys.